Hello and welcome. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this You've Got This session at Inbound 2020. Socially distanced B2B marketing, lessons in rapid adaptation. As a B2B marketer, where in-person events are a staple part of the marketing mix, seared into my mind are the events surrounding Monday, March 16th, 2020. The team were in the middle of running a conference at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. This is when COVID really started to hit us hard. In the space of 7 days, we went from 120 people registered to attend, with speakers flying in from overseas and interstate, through a week where sponsors, speakers and attendees withdrew, so that on the day we had 40 people actually come along, several speakers dialed in, and a venue at the university that went into full lockdown the very next day. Fortunately, we'd planned on recording the content so all was not lost, and the reach of the event could be extended online. And for those of us who'd travelled in from overseas, we were grateful to just make it back home before a full lockdown. For me, home is in New Zealand, and so far we've done a pretty good job of managing the pandemic, and life has in many ways got back to a sort of normal, at least at the time of writing this. Fast forward to August 13th, the day of this recording, and I'm in a city that has just gone back into a substantial lockdown, and it feels very much like Groundhog Day is here again. Being part of a B2B digital marketing firm working with technology and consulting services clients, the experience of having things change in a matter of weeks, and quite literally overnight, many times over, has forced us to reflect on our approach and re-engineer engagement tactics in real time. And ultimately, we're now working with clients to substantially redesign the B2B revenue generation process. So going back to late March, as we looked at how to support the sales cycle in a way that was sensitive to where people were in various states of lockdown and uncertainty about their own health, jobs, and situation, and given that doing nothing was not an option, we reflected on what we had and could leverage to meet the challenge in front of us. And with so many parameters changing so quickly, such as people having to juggle homeschooling, travel bans, workforce downsizing, and frozen budgets, to name just a few, we needed to manage rapid and ongoing uncertainty that has become the new normal, at least for the next year. This meant coming up with content that was relevant in a format that took into account a new socially distanced world. What it has meant is thinking more like a YouTuber. Someone who produces a series of short, crunchy episodes that can be consumed on demand or be engaged with live, with a formula that seeks feedback through likes, shares, subscribers, and comments, to guide future episodes and understand how content is resonating with an audience in order to generate revenue. With this in mind, we re-engineered the in-person marketing event or meetup into a series of interactive virtual panel discussions, taking a peer-based approach to episodes that use dynamic content, polls, and personalized workflows built on HubSpot to better engage and understand what's relevant to viewers. Another way to describe this is creating a B2B version of a YouTube channel on HubSpot. Especially important in this mix was starting to design intelligent interactions that enables relationship building through digital touchpoints, all at a social distance. We had already embarked on this journey prior to COVID, but what we experienced was a rapid acceleration in interest that is starting to translate into demand for a different way to build pipeline. What we've seen is a realization by CMOs as they develop budgets and plans for the next fiscal year that the ongoing uncertainty and need to maintain social distancing flexibility means in-person marketing events is just not a feasible thing to plan for in 2021. The pandemic is fueling an acceleration in the move to digital revenue generation, since digitally generated revenues are the most resilient to moving in and out of lockdowns and stay-at-home orders and managing the risk of having in-person gatherings cancel. Here's the gotcha in all of this though. Due to the uncertainty and caution around budgets, concerns about whether your job is still going to be there, and the need to pivot literally on a dime, as well as people having more time to engage with content to educate themselves, B2B buyers are starting to behave more like YouTube audiences, where they're educating themselves on topics, looking for reviews, and turning to experts and influencers to help them on their buying journey and purchase decision. This means that the content that audiences are looking for is both about the features and functionality of a product or service and about discovering different ways or use cases for that solution. In other words, the practical application of it to their particular situation or requirements. And to do this on a self-service basis, rather than wait for someone to schedule a product demo. And they want authentic social proof in the form of peers willing to talk about their approach to solving a business problem, process improvement, or innovation challenge, not just a sanitized corporate endorsement. Consider how buying a car has changed in the last 5 years or so. YouTubers combined with reviewers and enthusiasts mean that when you walk onto the car lot to buy, chances are you know more about the pros and cons, features and functionality, as well as the differences in model years than a typical car salesperson. The rise of the social influencer, combined with the power of video and compelling content, is fueling a shift in the way high-value, complex purchase decisions are being made. There's a statistic in the Harvard Business Review in an article from 2012 entitled "The End of Solution Selling." It's commonly cited, and that statistic is B2B buyers are typically 60% of the way through the buying process by the time they talk to a salesperson. What this has said to marketers is that salespeople were gradually becoming marginalized in the buying process, and to salespeople that they need to reinvent themselves to remain relevant in the new procurement journey. COVID is accelerating this trend, where sales and marketing are being forced through social distancing policies to be more integrated in their approach and to leverage the power of digital platforms to gather intelligence and create curated experiences for buyers. In addition, the need for salespeople to prospect and develop relationships at an ongoing social distance and do so digitally has also accelerated this trend. During lockdown, we've seen barbers and hairdressers that can't work start YouTube channels on how to cut hair, for instance, where they are morphing into content makers who then monetize their following by endorsing brands and selling merchandise online. What we're starting to see is the B2B equivalent of social influence content producers that we've seen on YouTube, Instagram, and now LinkedIn emerge into influencers around enterprise purchase decisions. For example, people are wanting to understand more about how to build business cases for things like digital transformation, customer lifecycle engagement, and introducing new digital platforms into their business. And they are looking for impartial advice and more of a trusted expert or brand ambassador than a sales order taker. So circling back to the gotcha I mentioned, it is that just like in-person selling, you have to build rapport and trust. And that takes time, and it happens in baby steps. You start with a topic that matters to your audience, like building a business case for a digital initiative or change. You then bring in experts and peers to talk about a diversity of ideas around that topic. By drawing in a wider circle of people interested in the topic, you can begin to track their interest and interaction, and thus both qualifying them as prospects and gaining a better understanding of what they're looking for. So the re-engineering of B2B sales, if we were to depict it as a Venn diagram, so imagine 3 overlapping circles, is a blend of intelligent digital platforms like HubSpot that are implemented with a view to the entire customer lifecycle and reduction of friction for those customers through that lifecycle. The second thing is a reimagined process of engagement that leverages these platforms, centered around building understanding and rapport that connects a buyer to a meaningful experience of your brand. And lastly, the next evolution of content marketing, a format pioneered by the social influencers of Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. At the intersection point between these three things, so in the center of that Venn diagram, the 60% metric that I mentioned before will become less about when the salesperson is engaged and more about how the overall buying relationship is formed with the minimum of in-person contact. Sales will focus on curating experiences and how to collaborate with customers, adding value to the customers on their terms, more like a concierge, educator, or advocate for change. We see this starting to emerge already with conversational marketing chatbots pioneered by Drift and HubSpot. And what we will start to see is the next generation of sales assistants that help qualify and understand needs in the form of digital humans, where each interaction will enable behind-the-scenes learning about interest levels, problems, or use cases, as well as preferences tracked and, most importantly, understood. This will enable interaction to move seamlessly from a chatbot to a digital human to a real person without losing context. So, to sum up, the key learnings for us as B2B marketers for this You've Got This session are, first of all, start thinking from the point of view of a YouTuber building a channel. Your marketing mix is evolving into the sponsorship of relevant B2B online influencers who are becoming a new channel to market. Second, embrace intelligent interaction, where personalized web experiences and content is geared to understanding buyer needs and where they are in their journey, as well as reducing friction for them. And lastly, develop a more digitally resilient revenue generation model, so that you can evolve and transform not only the marketing mix, but also the sales process to meet the challenge of a socially distanced next normal. And remember, some of these changes will be permanent, and some will revert back to in-person interaction. You just need to be ready for both in the year ahead. Thanks for listening. Feel free to connect with me via LinkedIn. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have, and I'll post the resources, guides, and related talks that I've listed here on my LinkedIn page.